everybody knows that George Romero's Creepshow is one of the best horror anthology films of all time. Creepshow 2, while it has a very special place in my heart, with the rat segment scaring the crap out of me as a kid, watching it now, it doesn't really hold up. But one that also made an impact on me, and that I only recently rewatched for the first time since seeing it on VHS as a kid, is Tales from the Darkside. Now, if people don't know, this was based on a TV series, and a lot of the same crew worked on the movie. And while this doesn't have the Creepshow name, I think that it's probably better than Creepshow 2. It's directed by John Harrison, with a script from George Romero, who also served as a producer, and it's actually an all-around solid horror anthology film. The 3 segments are great. The first one is a mummy film that has an amazing cast that includes Julianne Moore in her first theatrical film, Christian Slater, and Steve Buscemi dealing with a serial killer mummy. The second segment is an adaptation of a Stephen King short story, The Cat from Hell, and it's about a hitman having to take out an evil cat that seemingly cannot be killed. And then the third story is probably my favorite, only because the twist, which is based on an old Japanese folktale, is so amusing in a horrifying way that you gotta check it out. It's one that I quote all the time when I talk about horror movie twists. So this was directed by John Harrison, who was a producer on the Tales from the Darkside TV show. And what's great about his directorial style, this was his feature debut, is that he brings a comic book feel to this picture that feels like Bernie Wrightson style eerie comics, which is different than the Tales from the Crypt kind of pop art style. He doesn't try to imitate George Romero, which I think is to his benefit, because he makes it feel goofy and kind of graphic without having to resort to the primary colors that I associate distinctly with Creepshow. So this one, for some reason, has always gotten a really bad rap, but I'm glad that Shout Factory finally put it out on a special edition Blu-ray. It was originally released on DVD, and they did port over the commentary with John Harrison and George Romero, but they also did a feature-length documentary that interviews pretty much all of the core creative crew and the actors that they could get. And it's really fun and interesting. The film has never looked better. So if you like horror anthology films, or you're a tentative anthology horror film fan like myself, I would still recommend checking out Tales from the Darkside, the movie. And I would also like to recommend the books of Michael McDowell. When it comes to Tales from the Darkside, one of the main creative forces who wrote a lot of the screenplays was McDowell, who is probably most famous for writing the first draft of Tim Burton's Beetlejuice, which is completely different from what made it up on screen. McDowell's books, and he wrote a lot of them in the Paperback from Hell period, are great gothic horror novels that sometimes take a little bit of time to get going, but always deliver the goods. The one that I would recommend people checking out is The Elementals, which is about a family that moves into a beach house, which is the neighbor of another house that is just covered in sand. Maybe because it's hiding some horrible stuff. Michael McDowell, who wrote some of the best Tales from the Darkside episodes, and who actually did 2 of the stories in the movie, also wrote a whole bunch of great horror novels that are perfect for this Halloween season. So check them out! And as per usual, if you could subscribe to my podcast, The Important Cinema Club, I would really appreciate it. As well as subscribing to this channel, because I will continue to post regular reviews and lists for all the subscribers as long as people keep watching, which I hope you really do.